everybody, and welcome to Final Play Sports Wrap. I'm your host, Pete Lubar. Today, we're going to be talking about Cincinnati football. As you know, we've been covering the Big 12 football teams weekly. This is the, I think, fourth or fifth in our series now, going in alphabetical order. And so Colorado will be next week if you want to tune in. But Cincinnati this week under Coach Scott Satterfield in his third season. 8-16 overall. They were 5-7 last year, 3-6 in conference. The Bearcats run a fast-paced, up-tempo spread offense, emphasizes speed, and pretty good offensively. Last year, they were 36th in the nation in total offense at 420 yards per game. They've got Brendan Sorsby back as quarterback. He completed 249 of 389 pass attempts, 64%, very good. 2,800 yards, 18 touchdowns, and just 7 interceptions. Added 447 yards on the ground and 9 touchdowns. So he's a dual threat quarterback. He was one of the best in the Big 12 last year. His top performance came last year against Texas Tech, where he completed 31 of 45 passes for 426 yards. And 4 touchdowns in that shootout, and that was the most total yards for a Big 12 player last year in the conference. So and fourth highest total by a Power 4 quarterback. So they've got him back, which is good, and then they've got running back Evan Pryor back as well. He's a big play threat out of the backfield. He played in all 12 games, scoring 7 touchdowns and 622 all-purpose yards. Rushed 56 times for 418 yards and 6 TDs, and caught 15 passes for 181 yards and a touchdown. So, pretty good production there. They got a nice transfer in named Tyree Walker, who was at Wisconsin, and he was a Big Ten All Honorable Mention kid. Played in 11 games, starting 9, totaled 864 yards on the ground. 190 carries and 10 touchdowns. So that's a nice transfer in. And then they've got a kid named Jakarian Caffey, a 5'11", 212-pound freshman, who was given quite a bit of work in the spring game, and we expect to see him as well. Their leading receiver returns as well, Xavier Henderson. He had 59 catches for 738 yards and 4 TDs. 12.5 yards per catch, which is really good. Their tight end, Joe Royer, is back as well. He's their second leading receiver. They did lose their third leading receiver, Tony Johnson, who transferred out. But they did bring in a couple of receivers through the transfer portal. They brought in Cyrus Allen from Texas A&M, Caleb Goody from Colorado State, and a kid that they're very intrigued about, Jeff Caldwell from Lindenwood. He's a big kid, 6'5", kid, and he was a featured target in the spring games. So look for those guys to add value. From the offensive line, they lose nearly everyone. They lose Luke Kandra, John Williams, and D'Artagnan Tinsley. All 3 are now playing in the pros. Luke is at Green Bay. Luke is at Carolina. John Williams is at Green Bay, and Tinsley is at Cleveland. So lots of good players from the line that are gone. They did get a couple of nice transfers in. They got a 4-star offensive tackle named Joe Cotton. He's a transfer from South Dakota. He's 6'7", 315. And they got an offensive tackle from Ball State, Taran Tayo, 6'4", 326. So look for those guys to bolster that line. But offensively, they should be in pretty good shape, right? If the line comes together, they should be in a position to have a similar season offensively as they had last year. Defensively, it's a little bit of a mystery. The Bearcats typically run a 3-3-5 defensive scheme. 3 defensive linemen, 3 linebackers, and 5 defensive backs. But they were 85th in total defense last year. They did play a lot of younger guys, some freshmen and true freshmen who should improve this year. But, they lost linebacker Jared Bartlett, who's now a rookie with the Jets, and they lost safety Josh Minskins, who's now with the Patriots. So when you lose two guys out of your defense that are going to the NFL, it's hard to imagine you're going to be quite as good. They're really high on a kid named Simeon Coleman, who's an undersized sophomore linebacker. He's very disruptive. He's able to get underneath the bigger linemen with swim moves, and perhaps he's a poor man's Von Miller. So keep your eye on Simeon Coleman. From a transfer portal, the Bearcats used the transfer portal to add some new talent, particularly on the defensive line and offensive line. They added an edge, C.J. McCray from Virginia Tech, defensive lineman Jalen McCray from Old Dominion. They added a tackle, Elijah Gunn from Southern Illinois, and Elijah Rogers, a defensive tackle from Monmouth. And they've added several D-backs and safeties. So their focus was definitely on defense and defensive line. They had 16 transfers in. They had 15 out. The biggest one I mentioned was Tony Johnson, who was also their touchdown leader, and he left. Recruiting, most of them recruiting sites rate them around the mid to high 60s, 64th nationally, 14th in the Big 12. They've recruited 19 high school kids. They're all 3-star. So, they'll probably redshirt several of them, and maybe a couple will add value this year. From a schedule standpoint, they start their season against Nebraska at home, and then they play Bowling Green, and then Northwestern State. And then the conference season starts, so they start with Kansas and then go through a sort of, I don't know if it's a gauntlet. I wouldn't say the schedule's too bad, but you got Kansas, Iowa State, UCF, Oklahoma State, Baylor, Utah, Arizona State, and then finally BYU. But you do have ISU, Baylor, and BYU. Fortunately, those games are at home. And then you've got you also have games against UCF, Oklahoma State, Utah, Arizona. Those were the bottom half of the Big 12 last year. So it wouldn't surprise me if they ended up maybe similar to last year, 5-7, 6-6, maybe 4-8, depending on how they do in conference. Right now I have them at 2-7 in conference, just looking at the schedule, but it could easily be better than that. I think about Utah. Utah's going to be greatly improved. They got a kid named Devin Dampier, who was at New Mexico last year, quarterback. He's a dual threat guy, led New Mexico to 8th in the nation in total offense. So you got him and the offensive coordinator from New Mexico. They all went over to Utah. So Utah's going to be improved. And Arizona's got a really good quarterback. They're going to be improved. And you can't imagine OK State's going to have the same kind of season they had last year. So the schedule's not going to be all that easy, but it's probably not as hard as some of the teams in the conference. At least you've got some of the better names, bigger names, better programs at home. That always gives you a chance. So that's where it stands. As I mentioned, next week is Colorado. If you enjoyed this session, please subscribe to my YouTube page. It costs you nothing, but it helps me. And I appreciate you all. Have a great day. Thanks a lot. Bye.